I'm a female teen, and basically my mom would give away my birthday presents and presents I got when someone visited for the first time. I don't think I would mind if I didn't like the presents, but I did. My mom kept a huge box filled with them when we first got them, and then she'd say, "Pick one, play with it, and once you've used it to its max, you can pick out another one to use." But then when we went to other kids' parties, she would take one out of my box, make me wrap it for them, and then make me give it to them. It made me angry. I mean, those were my gifts. Obviously, I wanted to play with them. I was about 6 when this first started. Basically, I would have a birthday party, invite a group of people, usually like 8 to 10 people, and then the gifts I got would be distributed at my friends' birthday parties. I'd get one of them to keep me satisfied for the time being, and I used and still use things really well, so I never ruined it enough for my mother to approve another gift, so I basically only got the one. The rest of the gifts I got were from visitors, because it's customary to give gifts to someone when you're visiting their house for the first time. Sometimes it was chocolate, other times a toy or a dress. Nothing super expensive, like 10 to 15 bucks. In all of this, I was made to hand other children, including my bullies, which was even more annoying. One time I had a huge party and got like 100 to 150 gifts because it was more of a social gathering under the guise of my birthday. I never had a party again after that, and I was made to give out all of these over the next 2 or 3 years. I got furious because there were usually no repeats, and I hated going to birthday parties because she would call me selfish, but I wanted to play with my toys, not give them away. Or the toys would go to my little sister, who's 2 years younger. Either way, I was not happy about it, LOL. Anyway, the other day, my parents were like, "Oh, you should invite your friends over for your birthday." My birthday was 3 months ago, LOL. And I was like, "No thanks, I'd rather not." Then my mom was like, "Oh, but your sister's friends have so many parties coming up." And I wasn't really thinking, but I said, "Is this a grand plan to have presents to give them? Ha ha." She got angry. My dad got angry. Everyone got angry. My mom said she never did that and that I was exaggerating. I said this in front of her sister and my cousins, so my mom was mad that I made this up to insult her. The thing is, I didn't do that. I have photo evidence that I'm not lying. But my parents are angry, and my younger sister's telling me that I was out of line and that I should apologize. I don't agree. So, am I the idiot for calling my mother out in front of everyone for making me give away my birthday and other presents as a child? Not the idiot. I'm so sorry you had to go through that while growing up. In my opinion, you weren't hard enough on her. You should have called her out on her BS outright, especially in front of the family, so everyone knows what she's done to you. Does she do the same thing to your sister? Or does your sister get to keep all her gifts and only you get screwed over? If they're only doing it to you, it's extra messed up, and you should run as soon as you turn 18. Judging by sister backing mom, I'm betting sis gets to keep all her presents. Honey, that's messed up. Your sister is the golden child. I suggest laying low until you've gotten away from them, and once you're safe, you can tell the rest of your extended family everything. You can tell your extended family now that you don't want any gifts whatsoever, though, since you won't get them anyhow. The best revenge is to live a good life and avoid them. And when they're elderly, you can tell your sister that she'll be the only one helping them and providing financial assistance. My mother used to hand my stuff to relatives who visited. I came home once to find she'd given my bicycle to a cousin because they lived out in the countryside. They didn't ask for it. She just decided that they would have better use for it than me. She did that even when I was older, and I'd come home on leave from Royal Air Force to find that she had given personal property I had bought to strangers because they mentioned they couldn't afford to buy one or they were interested in it. It made me angry for a long time, but then I cut her off. Go no contact once you turn 18 because your parents are cheap and greedy while your sister is just a brat. I, 30 male, am newly engaged. I've been with my now fiance for 8 years. She's 28. We live out of state from both sides of our families. My mom and her dad live in the same city 5 hours away. so we take multiple trips a year. Over the past 4 years, my fiance has visited my mom's place less and less. While it does make sense since she visits her dad and sisters, she doesn't even stop by sometimes. My mom has started to notice, but I just make up excuses every time. I wish my fiance would consider my family more, but given some things that have happened, I think she's emotionally washed her hands. Both of my adult siblings live at home, one having a slight disability. My brother doesn't think before he speaks and just says anything. Telling my fiance she's not family after 8 years is one example. He does it to everyone. His ADHD just gets the best of him. My sister and she haven't got on the best, but she also has a 4-year-old son who lives at home with my mother. My fiance swears my sister doesn't want her around my nephew and doesn't even want her to know who she is. My mom isn't the most social person and rarely reaches out to my fiance, but their relationship is good when they do speak. I come from a very antisocial family, and I think that's one thing my fiance isn't used to. I generally spend more time with my fiance's family because they are the family I've always wanted but never had. Plus, it's more comfortable for both of us. I also choose to be with her side more for holidays than on my own. My fiance's always considered us splitting holidays, just so my mom doesn't get upset, even though I know she won't come. It sucks after a while to keep visiting my mom's house alone, when it's never that way on her side. Well, every year, my fiance's dad's side of the family books an Airbnb for a weekend for all of us to go. Last year, there were 50 of us. Everyone puts in $300 to $400 to cover our meals and house, along with any excursions we do. It's a really good time. My mom called and asked me if they could join us this year. They would pay for their own rooms or get separate houses close by if needed, and that my siblings also sounded interested. My mom wanted all the details. When I asked my fiance about it, she said no. She said she wasn't comfortable with them coming along, given they barely consider her family as is. I told her that having them come out with us versus her always having to visit would help the relationship and help us bond. She kept repeating she didn't feel comfortable with that, and how my family never took time to meet her family before, so why now? Also, when they ask her to come along, she feels used. I just don't understand. I love my fiance. She's such a family-oriented person, but I don't understand why not now. I insisted she let them come because we were getting married anyway. Isn't this part of marriage? Am I the idiot? You are the idiot. Wow. Entitled or just dense? Why are you pressing her to prioritize the family that even you admit you would rather not spend time with? You're minimizing her negative experiences while pressuring her to get over it effectively. 8 years is plenty of time to form her opinions, and you need to respect them. Nothing's keeping you from going as low contact with them as she has, or suck it up and keep going alone. They aren't stupid, and they know she doesn't think highly of them. They also don't think highly of her. Stop trying to force things before you lose the family you always wanted but never had. Seriously, you're ignoring her feelings. Your family doesn't like her and just wants to use her as a free vacation. Also, what does having ADHD have to do with not considering her family? That makes no sense. I have ADHD, and it causes a lot of problems, but comments like that are not one of them. Unbelievable. She needs to cut her losses and run. I'm trying to imagine the wedding, children, holidays. Agree. Your family being antisocial or ADHD or whatever doesn't excuse the fact that they've not been welcoming to your fiancé, whom you've been with for 8 years. She doesn't feel welcome. ADHD is not an excuse for being rude. She doesn't want to spend time with people who clearly aren't being kind to her in any way. Oh wait, except when they think there's a holiday on the cards. I'm totally with her. I wouldn't want them there either. Put yourself in her shoes. My 30 male, wife 29, is pregnant with our first child, our daughter. She's just about a month away from giving birth, and we haven't picked out her name yet. At one point, we had 2 potential names on a list, but my wife told me she really didn't want to give either name to our daughter, so that was gone. Our issue comes from a difference in likes and dislikes of names. My wife likes very common, very classic names. She likes to go a touch old-fashioned too. Her 3 favorite girls' names are Elizabeth, Esther, and Hannah. She also strongly loves the names Emily, Beatrice, Constance, Patricia, Catherine, and Geraldine. But there are many names in the same sphere she likes. My taste is more mixed, but I like more uncommon names and names that aren't super used or classic. However, I have some classics I do like. Names I adore are Indigo, Indy, Lyric, Elodie, Lyra, Dove, Sunny, Scout, and Kalia. We strongly dislike the names the other one strongly likes or loves. We had the name Bryony and the name Melody on our list for a while, but my wife decided neither were names she could tolerate our daughter having, so we went back to square one. I feel like she refuses to find names closer to what I like. The ones I suggest closer to her liking, Chloe and Alana, are names she doesn't feel work with her taste. She said at one point she should get more of a say as the person carrying our daughter and giving birth to her, but that was dropped soon after. However, my wife has decided the fairest compromise is for one of us to pick the first and the other the middle name, and we each call her by the name we choose. So say we end up with Elizabeth Indy. She'd call her Elizabeth, or a nickname from said name, and I'd call her Indy. The thing is, I'm not entirely opposed to this, but I give it a month after our daughter is born before my wife is annoyed that I don't call our daughter by her first name. And I know when she talks about the compromise, she means for her choices to go in the first name spot and mine in the middle. I also know that annoyance will only grow if friends and family choose to call her Indy, and this is just an example, instead of Elizabeth. But since both would be used a lot, it could happen. I know her 2 younger sisters would likely lean more toward my taste, so would prefer something like Indy to Elizabeth to call their niece. So I don't think the compromise would work for long. I told my wife this, and she told me she was an adult and would be fine. She said I have no reason to doubt her. I told her I know how much she hates not getting her way on certain things, which is a big thing to her. She said she'd be okay with me calling our daughter a different name. Even as she said it, she looked annoyed and felt like she was forcing it. I told her I didn't believe her. My wife said it's unfair not to because she knows herself better than I do. I suggested we try it out before our daughter came, and she was also angry about that. Am I the idiot? Everyone's the idiot here. You know who's going to suffer here? This poor kid won't know her own name and will constantly have her parents forcing their preferred name on her until she's expected to pick a side. Y'all are both supposed to be adults about to have a child. You're way past the time when you can be the childish ones. Both of you need to put your adult undergarments on, sit down, and hash this out. Pick a name you both can agree on, or put the names in a hat. Pick it, and then be done with it. Whatever works. Yeah, I'm fine with the wife. His names all sound like nicknames. Dude, find a name that works for an adult, not a child. Babies are babies for mere moments of their lives, and it's a 2-yes situation. Don't make it into a competition, because it isn't. For the record, I call my baby Sock most of the time, and she has a very traditional name. Let nicknames be nicknames, and names be something that works for adults. They don't have to be old-fashioned or super boring, but it's better not to let that child have to tell every coworker in the world, I have strange parents. My stepsister changed her name the day she turned 18 and has never looked back because her dad chose an Indian name for her. She nor her father nor anyone she's related to is Indian. So my twin brother and his wife, sister-in-law, had a baby boy recently, and they chose the name Everest for their son. I knew the name prior to my nephew's birth, but nobody else did. And when my parents and siblings learned the name, they were really not okay. At first they thought it was a joke and asked for my nephew's real name. And then when my brother told them Everest was the real name, they acted like he had grown 5 heads. Shocked, horrified, and angry were very clear. They didn't actually say anything else then, but that might be due to sister-in-law's family also being present. The next time we were all together, they couldn't wait to jump on my brother and sister-in-law for giving my nephew such a crazy name. My brother told them the name was the name, and nothing they said would ever change it. They asked sister-in-law how she could do that to their grandson and nephew, that he didn't need to be burdened by her family's strangeness. The reason they said this is sister-in-law and her family all have more unusual names. She told me that it goes back at least 3 generations, now 4, and that she's always loved her name and the names in her family, and she's always gravitated to those kinds of names. My brother always liked unusual names too, and we're alike in that way. Maybe it's a twin thing, LOL. My brother made the rest of our family leave. They expected me to go with them, but I stayed. This shocked them more. Apparently, they've annoyed the crap out of my brother in the last few weeks, and he decided to block them for a while. Sister-in-law also blocked them because she was getting a lot of harassment from them, and it's very clear they blame her alone for the name. The rest of the family asked me to join them for dinner, and this dinner was about how crazy my brother was for allowing this, and how sister-in-law was awful for doing this to my nephew. They mentioned how they sent several messages to both about the name being downright cruel. I chimed in and said that talking crap about the name and blaming sister-in-law for the name isn't doing what they think it is. They won't have a grandson or nephew if they don't learn to keep their opinions to themselves and apologize for being so cruel to sister-in-law. They told me I should be on their side and imagine if we get a little pixie or fairy next, and what if we get a wave or something dumb like that? Because knowing sister-in-law's family, it's likely. They told me I wasn't thinking of my nephew at all. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Your family sounds absolutely insufferable. Also, honestly, I was expecting way worse than Everest. Like, that's actually an established name. Where the heck do they think the name Mount Everest comes from? It was legit from someone's name, George Everest, and using an established last name as a first name is really common. Honestly, I love the name choice. They need to be very careful of becoming your nephew's first bullies, because if they keep talking crap about his name, it will get back to him eventually. How do they think he's going to feel about grandma and grandpa talking badly about him or his mom or his other grandparents? And be prepared for your family to do petty crap like refusing to say the kid's name or trying to give him a nickname that's just something normal, and in general, continuing to be rude about it. Continue sticking up for your brother and sister-in-law and nephew because there's nothing wrong with the name they chose. The worst I can come up with is Fit the Best, Everest, from an old Doggy Double glazing firm advert years ago. Harlot is a stupid choice, but that should be obvious. Just like Chardonnay, spelling correct as per their birth certificate, or colon are not to my taste, and likely most, but Everest is a good, strong left field, but not wacko name. Your parents sound like they look for things to be upset about.